got it, and it's going to be a good one. So I'm Megan. This is Matt Sharp. We are the founders of Kid Strong, and we have started a new podcast called Kid Strong, Building Stronger Kids. And today our guest is Chelsea Ford. She is a hello. She's a pediatric occupational therapist. She currently works at a developmental preschool in Texas. And she's also the wife of our director of programming. He's her husband.
There you go.
Is her husband. So Patrick Ford, he is our director of programming, and he is a physical therapist, a doctor of PT. So it just runs in the household there.
There you go.
And 8-month-old?
Yes.
Yes. And they have an 8-month-old
It's crazy.
daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today is picky eaters. This comes up
Classic.
a lot in conversations with us. I'm sure please hear about it a lot. And
100%.
Yeah, and I think some of the things we're trying to do as parents, I don't think know kind of where it falls on.
Well, what is it?
Yeah, what is it? You know, what like the definition of it, and then kind of where that falls in of is it just something like that's part of their age?
Right.
So I think me as a dad, I'm just like, just eat it.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like as parents, first of all, this topic can be super frustrating because parents are just like, just eat the food, just try it. You're not going to like it, or you're not going to know if you like it unless you try it. And I think that's kind of the classic go-to with parents. Picky eaters in general, I would just say eaters that have very limited food variety. And then when it comes time to try new foods, they may become upset or stressed or anxious about the foods and just flat out refuse. And then, obviously that's when the parents become frustrated and it becomes, a big deal. I definitely think it's a normal stage of, development for kids to go through picky eating, simply because as kids gain more awareness and they're gaining more experiences of their world, they're starting to decide for themselves, like, okay, that looks funny, that smells funny, that tastes funny, or, they're starting to take their old experiences of maybe something they heard someone say about the green bean or the broccoli, and they're kind of applying it to their own lives. And so I think it's pretty typical for kids to go through picky eating. I think another thing that would be good for parents to keep in mind is why, why is my kiddo struggling with this broccoli? Why are they struggling with this green bean, or, whatever it may be. And just to keep in mind that the reason kids are struggling with those foods is something in their sensory system. So whether it's the way that the food looks, the color of it, the funny shape of it, the way the food smells, the way it feels when they touch it in their hands, the way that it feels when it goes into their mouth, something about that food is overstimulating to them. And so what can we do as parents to kind of not necessarily desensitize them to it, but give them those experiences with it that are positive? That way they're more apt to try it in the future, if that makes sense. But I do think, just in my experience, that just because your kid's a picky eater, like that's not really a red flag for something right off the bat. I mean, I was a picky eater growing up, but I think that it's important as parents to remember that picky eating is kind of the long game type of thing. And that although it's kind of silly, like if your child looks at the food one night, that's great. And the next time they touch it, that's great. And the next time they bring it to their mouth, that's great. But just knowing that that repetition and that exposure and providing those experiences for your kid is the most important thing. Because the more that they have that, the more apt they're going to be to engage with that food.
Yeah. So just for people watching, especially new parents, it's a common thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think sometimes parents feel like, oh, it's only our kid that's a picky eater.
Right.
You hear the term picky eater, and it's like, oh, right. Something's going on.
Right.
Wrong, but I mean,
right.
2 out of the 3 of our kids are,
right.
I consider them as picky eaters.
Yeah.
Right.
So
sometimes it's depending on what type of day they're having.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And it's the same with me too. Like I want certain foods on some days and not the next. And so I think that that's pretty normal too. Anyway, I think that there's different ways though that we can I know Megan, you put in the outline talking about kids wanting different meals. Yeah. So classic. I want chicken nuggets. I want a sandwich. I want this. I don't want this. I mean, I'm a parent of a baby. I don't have young toddlers yet, but I do work with kids all day, every day. And I always tell my teachers and everyone else that I work with that you have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
So with picking your battles, I don't think it's necessarily as important for everyone to be eating the same meal. Like, I think if that's part of your routine as a family, that, you know, Cannon eats the chicken nuggets, all the other kids eat something else. Like, I think that that's not really the battle. I think the thing is, I would just challenge families to maybe pick like one meal a day that they are providing a food that's new or not preferred, and just having the kids engage with it. So like, less about making sure everybody's eating the same meal and more about that the kids are getting opportunities to engage with and try foods that they may not do on their own. Something else that I usually tell, and this is kind of like one of my topics of how we can get the kids to engage with the foods, just going back to that sensory system. So the way the food looks kind of goes all back to the presentation of the plate. And so if you put 3 foods on a kid's plate that they don't like, more chances than not, you're going to get screaming, crying, kicking, maybe the plate goes on the floor. Whereas if you kind of start with the food that you know that they like, that's highly preferred, whether it's that chicken nugget or that sandwich or that French fry or whatever, and then you slowly introduce other foods over the course of the meal that are more non-preferred. So whether it's the broccoli, the cauliflower, the asparagus, like whatever you want your kid to eat, in small portions. Okay. Just like 1 green bean or 1 piece of broccoli, or 1 piece of cauliflower. And because when a kid gets a lot of food on their plate that they don't like, that becomes super overstimulating immediately. And they're not going to be more apt to engage with it. And so, especially when it comes to picky eaters. And so making sure that they have that food that they like, so that they're not stressed and anxious about being hungry or cranky, or, whether they're going to get something they like and their belly's going to get full. Like, go ahead and provide that, that structure and like that confidence in them. Like, you're going to have something you like, you're going to, your belly's going to get full, but then we can put a piece of green bean on our plate, and then we can put a piece of broccoli on our plate. And maybe it's just for your family, it's just 1 time a day. Maybe it's for your family, it's every single meal you're doing 1 food. And then as a group, you guys can come together and be like, okay, what color is it? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What is the texture like? If you put it in your mouth, is it going to be juicy? Is it going to be crunchy? Is it going to be soft? And just kind of giving your child
a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something I was talking to Patrick about this morning, is that we have to remember that kids learn and grow through play. Like, they gain new experiences and they learn when they're playing. And so I'm not saying that, me and my kids play with our food. Like, I know some parents are like, no, playing with the food, and that's fine. But your kid is going to be more apt to engage with the food and try it after they've had an opportunity to explore it. And so, like, when I have kids that I'm working on feeding with, like, when they first start, school here, they may just turn around fully in their chair whenever they see something green put on their plate. Like, won't even look at it, won't even touch the plate at that point after it gets put on there. And then maybe the next week, they're not turning around in their chair. And then maybe the next week, they start touching it. And then maybe the next week, it goes in their mouth and everybody's just like, did you see him eat that broccoli? Like, he just ate the broccoli, And so, again, the long game. And then also, like, providing those experiences, and not maybe the first night that 1 green bean is put on their plate, not just shoving it in their mouth or being like, you can't leave the table until it's in there, just remembering that kids need those experiences and that repetition, and just that opportunity to engage with that food and feel it and, explore it and talk about it before it goes in their mouth. Yeah. Just having that patience with them.
Yeah, I think one of the things, we struggle with, or I struggle with, especially as we don't want to end up being where, like, every meal is this, like, super negotiation where every kid has their own waiter and they all get separate plates and separate colored spoons. So
right.
At what point does it make sense where, like, parents aren't held hostage to, 3-year-olds demanding certain
right. I think that's, without knowing the kids on a really deep level, like, I would have to probably understand, like, where that stress and anxiety is coming from. To me, obviously, the most important goal is that the child is healthy and fed. Like, that's the most important goal. But if your child is experiencing kind of that need for control at meal times, I would try to figure out a way that you can give them that control, but you're still in control. And so tonight you get to pick what color plate you want, but I'm going to pick the 3 foods that go on your plate. Or, you get to pick your color plate, or, I pick your color plate and you get to pick what new food you want on your plate. So tonight you can have the new green bean, you can have the new piece of broccoli, you can have the new, whatever apple or whatever it is you're trying to get your child to eat. And just kind of giving them that tiny bit of control that you're still in control of, if that makes sense. So picking your battles.
Well, I was going to say that. So I think sometimes moms and dads are a little different when it comes to so Matt's more like
just eat the food. That's right. I mean, I feel the same way sometimes.
Or start.
Well, I'm more of so mine is like I'm really I have 3 kids, 5 and under, and that's a lot for us.
Yep.
I've learned I have learned to pick my battles. To me,
yes.
If Evie wants the pink spoon and Cannon wants the blue and Ella wants the green, to me that's not a big deal because they finish their meal.
Exactly.
But that's just my battle that I choose not to get into.
Right.
Where I worry about if we go somewhere they don't have pink spoons, then now we.
I mean, is that the case? I mean,
as a mom, something that I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get them now. Like I almost know what color each person wants now, and so that's how I prepare it. I have the blue bowl, the pink bowl, and the yellow bowl, and I swear I've learned just what bowl to give what kid. But again, that's the battle. That's the battle that I prefer not to pick.
Right. Right.
Everybody has white plates and white spoons.
Something that, but it's also not abnormal that kids pick a color. That's totally
no. And I think, for my personal opinion, I'm going to have to agree with you simply because my biggest, as they age, their preference of their color plate and their spoon is going to extinguish itself. But whether or not they try new foods may not, unless they are in a place of readiness. Like if they're stressed about their plate and spoon the whole time, they're probably not going to want to try new food, have a new food on their plate, where if we could just give them that control of that tiny little aspect that it's going to extinguish itself eventually anyway, then maybe that new food won't be overstimulating, and maybe they won't already be at a place of so stressed and anxious about things that they're more apt to engage with it.
I love that.
So I think that all goes back to.
Yeah, I love that because we all want a little sense of control, right? And so you take these tiny bodies and these tiny brains and, in my daughter Ella's head, she loves to be in control. So like you said, she can't control the color and then mom is picking the food. Like I've lost it. I've lost everything.
There's nothing there for me.
Yeah, there's nothing there for me. So I really love to touch on that anxiety. Like they already have high anxiety. Let's not push the limit.
Right.
I also love as a parent, because this is so I didn't think about this, but don't put 20 green beans on their plate.
Exactly.
Put 1 green bean, because when you see 20 green beans as a 4-year-old, you're like, oh my gosh, my life is over. Yeah.
Yep.
People move sections and say, I'm just gonna eat this. And
yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cut something in half.
Can I just eat this? So I love that.
Yeah. So what we do here is what we call family style in our classrooms. And so the kids at first get something on their plate. They get their empty white plate, and they at first get something that's highly preferred. And we already know what they like because we know them like the back of our hands. And so whether it's that piece of bread or that chicken nugget or whatever, and then as the meal progresses, they slowly get some of those non-preferred foods on their plate. And it is, unless we know they love the food, it is sometimes just that 1 green bean or that 1 cauliflower or that 1 piece of zucchini. And that's when we come alongside them and we're talking about what it looks like, what it smells like. Is it long? Is it skinny? Is it hard? Is it soft? What's inside of it? And sometimes if you're just your kid has never even touched a green bean in their entire life, so you have nothing to lose, right? And so at least just see if they'll touch it and break it open and find the beans that are in there, and then it's after you've done that with them, a few times, then all of a sudden you look over and they're starting to bring it closer to their face because like they're not so stressed about it anymore because they know everything there is to know about that food.
Yeah.
And so that's when it kind of starts getting closer to their mouth and more apt to try it. Something else that I was thinking of earlier is just remembering that our kids are going off of us. And so like you forget sometimes how much your tone, your facial expressions, your confidence, the way that you eat affects your kids, because that one time that your 4 or 5-year-old hears you talking nasty about the broccoli in the kitchen, right, it's over. Like they're like, well, mom thought that was nasty. Like there's no chance that's going in my mouth, you know? And so just remembering that you provide the experiences and opportunities for your kids, and that the way you talk about the foods and you encourage them and motivate them, because you're the biggest motivators as parents, that's where it's going to come from. So like when I'm with my kids, I'm like, oh, you can do it. Like you can touch the green bean. Like, replacing you can with can you. You know what I mean? Like giving them that confidence of you can do this, or instead of being like, will you please try a bite? Like, oh, mommy's going to take a bite. You can too. Or, mommy's going to put it on their tongue or in their teeth or whatever silly you're doing with the food or engaging with it. Like just being confident for the kid, because they're going to kind of bounce off, what you're providing with that experience. So
I've also noticed that when I'm eating food now, as my kids get a little older, like they watch me.
Yep.
And we found out Cannon really liked fried okra. We didn't order him fried okra, but he was watching Matt eat it, and he said, well, can I try that? And then he said,
you're like, sure.
But he really liked it.
He likes it.
Yeah. But like we didn't force it on him. Like
exactly.
I've noticed our kids watch us, and then, well, can I try it? Yes, you can. You can try it. And we're not like forcing them to eat it, which I
and they're all very different.
Right.
So like Evie says, can she try everything?
Yeah.
And then she'll
and
say,
she does.
What is that? It's a banana. Oh, I love bananas. And she's never had it before. I love it.
Well, because you love it and she sees you eating it, and I think that goes
before.
So another question is, so let's talk about using dessert as a reward. So I've been told not to do that.
Right.
I know it's really easy to say, well, if you eat 3 green beans, you get a dessert. I think as a parent, that's really easy. So talk about that. Why would you advise against that?
I mean, obviously I'm in a school setting, and so we can't or don't bribe kids to do this or do this. I mean, like in your family setting, it's a little bit different. And honestly, I think everyone's going to have their own strong opinions about it. And I think that's fine, because if your kid's eating the green beans, again, they're healthy and fed. But my personal opinion is not to use the dessert as a reward and reinforcer, simply because your child is making those connections of, well, I'm only going to eat this because I know I'm getting this, instead of just really getting that exposure and repetition and starting to enjoy those foods and that mealtime with mom and dad. It's just becoming like, I do this for dessert, or maybe they decide they don't want dessert, and so then they never eat anything, like that. They're just like, oh, dessert's not worth it for me tonight, so I'm just going to pass. Yeah. And so, like, again, that puts them in that control. Whereas if you just dessert should happen. It should be the special thing that happens a couple times a week or whatever you do as a family. But I don't think it should be directly correlated to, I ate my green beans, so I get this. I ate my broccoli, so I get this. Because then they're going to go to school and no one's going to give them an ice cream right after they eat their broccoli. No one's going to give them a piece of cake right after they eat their zucchini. And so I think it's more important to focus on those experiences and on your child truly, like you said, asking, can I try that? Or what did that taste like, mommy? Or, mommy just took a bite of broccoli. Do you think it was soft or crunchy? Like, I think it's just more important, and like exposing your child, getting that repetition, and truly engaging with the foods more than bribing to eat the foods, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that may not give as much carryover in the future.
Does this also work on spouses that are picky eaters?
On what?
Spouses that are picky eaters?
No dessert.
Listen, I'm a picky eater too. You can ask Patrick, but I've gotten a lot better over the years. A lot better. Yeah.
Bite of it.
I also think when it comes to desserts, and I remember hearing this a long time ago, it's almost like we're putting we're almost putting it out
We're
there,
putting the
like,
emphasis.
we think the most important
We're
meal
putting the
is
emphasis.
the dessert.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
We're putting this
Yeah.
big trophy on, here's your dessert.
Right.
Where
Right.
You kind of act like the big.
I know, right? But I'm not poor.
Yeah, exactly. They're learning and gaining those experiences. You're right. So they're gonna think, well, yeah, that's the most important.
But
The most important. So
I love that you said they're gonna go maybe to their friend's house or to school, and they're not gonna get rewarded every time for eating a green bean, right?
Right. That's my first go-to is what's gonna happen when they go to school. Like that's
Good.
me and parents have that conversation every day. Like, yeah, we can do that now, but what about when they go to school? You know, and so we're trying to set them up for success for those environments because that's where they're going to spend most of their time. So
it would be kind of annoying if the kid came over to your house and
I know.
demanded ice cream.
Where's my dessert?
Yeah. Mommy gives me ice cream every time I take a bite of my broccoli.
So tell me about so tell me about when parents should feel like they need to seek professional advice, because like you said,
it's a common issue.
It can be normal and it is a common issue, but then there are times as parents, there are certain things that we need to seek professional help from. What are some of the things, like when would it get into that?
I think one big one is obviously if there's an oral motor issue, like your child literally can't eat and that's inhibiting their development and their growth and them being fed and healthy. I think that's obviously the number one issue. But other than that, to be honest, and this is something I was talking to Patrick about earlier, is usually when it's a true picky eater to the point of it's disruptive to their life, like the child is not able to function, there's coexisting factors there. And so that child is going to be a lot of times distributing other factors of developmental needs or sensory needs that child is also, maybe that pediatrician or whatever, whoever, neurologist or whoever that child sees is going to come alongside and be like, okay, yeah, he's a picky eater, but I'm also seeing this, this, and this based off what I'm seeing and observing from the child and what I'm hearing from you. So your picky eating, again,
would probably come in at that point and say, you know.
Right. Yeah. If it's inhibiting development or if there's coexisting factors going on where that child is not meeting certain developmental milestones, or, you know, when they're in their daycare or preschool or other family members environment, there's certain behaviors that are happening that represent that of other sensory needs, not just the picky eating, if that makes sense. Like there would be needs in other areas aside from just being a picky eater.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. So we are coming on that 30-minute mark. So if you had to sum it up in 3 things.
Oh gosh.
I learned so much. I love this one. As a parent, you know, we see it all the time and you know, it's just so normal. So what are the top 3 things that we can do, and you know, from your professional advice, what are top 3 things, or 4 if you have them, just to sum it up?
I got 3.
Bullets.
3's good.
What can we do?
Okay, so one, just kind of going back to, I'll make it really quick, the positive interactions with the food. So anything that you're doing with the food that you want your child to try or engage with or eat has to be positive. So when you're cooking it, when you're eating it, when you're at the table, like your body language, your tone, the words that you're using, just making sure that it's positive about the food. And kind of like I was mentioning, replacing the will you or can you with, oh, you can put it on your mouth. You can drive it like a car. You can put it on your teeth, or you can take a bite or whatever, just to give them that confidence of mommy's eating this, daddy's eating this. They're encouraging me to do this and motivating, and they're my biggest motivators, so I can trust them that I can, you know, take this bite. And so just replacing that language. 2, the presentation. So if there's 3 foods on the plate that your child absolutely hates and you know that, the chances of them trying a bite of that or wanting to engage with those foods is super slim. So again, giving them that preferred food from the beginning, the food they like that chicken nugget or whatever. That way they know, like, okay, I know I have this food to eat, so I'm not going to go hungry. My belly is going to get a tiny bit full. That way I'm not stressed and anxious or hangry, cranky. And then slowly presenting those non-preferred foods throughout the meal. Like, oh, I wonder what mommy has in this pan. Like, I wonder what daddy has in this pan. And maybe even letting them like scoop the food out and put it on their plate, or maybe they get to pick a piece out and put it on. Just any way, any engagement that you can get with them to present the foods in those small portions so that they're more apt to engage with the food and try it. The last one is just the playfulness. Just remembering that kids learn and gain new experiences through play. And that doesn't mean that you have to be the parent that makes a huge mess, although I am. You don't have to make the huge mess. You don't have to let them go crazy to where you have to clean the whole kitchen for 2 hours. But just remembering that as much in control as we want to be as parents, like they are kids, like they're really small humans, and like they are still learning through play. And so you do have to be somewhat playful with them, with their foods, because like I said, they're going to take the experience they had one time and apply it to the next time. So if they remember last time they had that green bean or broccoli and they got to, act like it was a choo-choo train and they saw the bean in there and it really didn't smell that bad. And it, I saw mommy eating it and it was a little bit juicy in her mouth, but that's okay. Then maybe next time they're going to be more apt to try it. But if they remember last time they ate it and daddy was forcing it in their mouth, or it became like this power struggle and they had this, look at him, they have this negative experience with that food, the chances of them trying it on their own next time is pretty slim. Because last time they had it, it was a super negative experience for them. But anyway, all that to say, as long as healthy and fed is the most important thing, but then just remembering that it's a long game and it may not happen over 2 weeks and it may not happen over 2 months, but I see kids every single day go from, a super limited food variety, classic picky eaters, to 2 to 3 months later having at least 15 new foods.
Awesome.
And they eat it at school and at home. And so just knowing that it'll happen eventually, but you just have to be patient and kind of trust the process. So
that's awesome, Chelsea. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate
You're welcome.
That was so awesome.
I hope it was informative.
It was awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Later. Bye.
Bye.